Hi everybody and welcome to the video and live streaming show. My name's John Lacey and I'm joined as always by Sam Proof. Today on the show we're going to be talking all about Restream and Restream Studio and whether this might be a good option for you in terms of creating video content or going live or even repurposing existing content. So we're going out to all the various places, so if you are watching live, let us know in the chat where you happen to be watching from. And I feel like Sam kind of wants me to stop doing this, but I'm going to do it maybe one last time. If you are watching live, hashtag Team Live in the chat, and if you're watching later on, you can do hashtag Team Replay as well. But Sam, how are you doing? I know you're a little unwell this week, but how are you holding up?
Yeah, I'm fighting off a cold, so apologies in advance if I cough or anything like that. I will try to hold back. It's been a pretty decent week. I've been moving forward on some UGC work, and Acute Avalanche had some big wins, some milestone events. We passed 2,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel and 525,000 views, which I don't know if I would consider that a milestone, but vidIQ did, and they emailed me, so I'm putting it out there and celebrating my wins. We had one video that passed 6,000 views on its own, which, you know, small potatoes, but it's, you know, the biggest one we've had in a very long time. So yeah, all good stuff on this side, and looking forward to Thanksgiving coming up so we can eat some food and chill out. How's things with you?
Nice. Things are going okay with me. I am conscious of the fact that we're like less than 40 days away from Christmas, which is a little scary. But we were talking about holiday streaming, I think, on next week's show. So, and yes, of course, Black Friday deals are coming. So we're going to have to manage our FOMO and, you know, spend responsibly as well. But hello to our good friend Saeed, who's watching from Germany. Great to have your company. Saeed was actually on a live stream during the week as a guest, which was really, really awesome. And he did a bit of a shout out to me, which was lovely. And funnily enough, one of the guests was like, oh, yes, I know John. Shout out to John. Of course, he's on the other side of the world and the time zones never work. So I don't know if he'll ever be on this show. But anyway, there's not a lot I can do about that. So that tangent aside, today we are talking about Restream. So I guess, and hello to Ernesto, who's watching from Arizona. Hello and welcome to the show. So today we're talking about Restream and Restream Studio as well. Restream, in fact, why don't I put this to you, Sam? How would you describe Restream to people that may not have heard of it before?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Restream has a lot of aspects to it, but I think first and foremost, they are a multi-streaming tool. So you stream to or through Restream, which are both possible, and then it sends your signal out to as many other platforms as you want / can afford, whatever price point on their subscription system is. But yeah, you do your live stream, you put it out to them, they syndicate it to a bunch of other platforms. And, you know, and I think that they do it the best as far as they have the most API connections to platforms. So I'm going to qualify it that way.
Okay, cool. And we'll have a look at that in a second. So I guess the great thing about Restream, I guess from my perspective, is that you can take a feed out of sort of more traditional streaming software like OBS Studio, like Ecamm Live, yes, like what is the other one I'm trying to think of? Anyway, the Streamlabs OBS, I think, what was Streamlabs OBS, which I think is now Streamlabs Desktop. But anyway, any of those software, you can take a feed out of that and you can send it to Restream, and then it'll actually relay that signal to different live streaming destinations. And the great thing about that is it's going to take a lot of the load off your personal internet connection, because you're sending one feed up to Restream and it's actually handling the load of all the others going to those different destinations. But it also does have this desktop experience, which is Restream Studio. And I'm trying very hard this week not to get on my soapbox, but there was another company that did a very similar thing and have been bought out and have increased their prices. And that's a bit of a pain point for a lot of people right now. So we kind of wanted to introduce this to you as a potential option. Again, you know, I don't have an affiliate link for you or anything. I encourage you to try out the free version and see if this works for you. But I did want to explore some of the features, and we have been using this, and it's this piece of software has had a really interesting relationship with this show because we actually started recording offline in Restream Studio. We left Restream
Yeah.
for a while, and then we came back and we started using Restream Studio, and then we moved from OBS via Restream. So we've done all the things with this, and it's been really kind of interesting. A couple of other features that are worth exploring too is you actually have the ability to stream pre-recorded videos or effectively take some recorded content and treat it as a new stream, and share it out in that way. And I guess, the thing I would encourage you to do is just make sure people are aware that you may not be actually live, because there's nothing worse than thinking someone is live and then just completely ignoring the comments. Speaking of which, we've got a viewer over in Toronto, Canada. Thank you for being here as well. So I guess in some ways, we can do that. And a lot of the social media platforms do have some constraints when it comes to recorded video. And if you've got a video, for example, on LinkedIn that goes for 20 minutes, I think their cap is about 15 minutes. So one way of overcoming that is actually to schedule a video as well. And we also have the ability to actually schedule a stream of a playlist of an assortment of different videos. So I think that's really cool as well. So we're going to unpack some of that today. And if you do have questions about this, if you've had any experience with this, let us know in the chat. I know, because I feel like Saeed in particular, like he does a lot of video stuff, but it's usually constrained to like a Zoom room, for example. So I don't know if he's had any experience with this, but I would be really curious to hear more about that. But I guess what we're doing today, and I kind of want to unpack it a little bit, just because I know our audience is a little bit nerdy and they might appreciate this, is that I'm kind of running two versions of Restream, one that's actually got our live show going out and another account on another browser, just to show some of the features that we'll be exploring today. So let's get stuck into that right now. But of course, if you do have questions, let us know in the chat. So let me just pop over to Restream, and I'm already sort of inside of this experience now. You will see Black Friday sale, get 50% off. That's definitely a thing that's happening right now. So this is essentially the home workspace, if you like. And here we can go and schedule a new stream. And like I said earlier, we've got a whole bunch of different options. So we can use Restream Studio, which is that browser-based experience. We can actually use the encoder, so to go from OBS Studio or Ecamm Live or vMix or any of those sorts of things. We can schedule a video file to go out as though it was alive. We can schedule that playlist, and we can also record audio and video without going live. So those are some of the options that we have here, and they're actually really, really cool. So I might just jump into, and I guess before we get there though, the other thing too is we want to think about our channels. So this is a brand new account I set up today for this purpose. So I don't actually have any channels connected to this account. But if we click on the channels, it's going to recommend that you set these up. So Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. Twitter, you kind of need a premium account for these days. And I don't think I'd enjoy it being referred to as Twitter, but it is what it is. But if we click on this Add Channels button, we do actually have a whole bunch of other options. And I was talking to Sam about this before we went live. I've not heard of a lot of these options. Like, I mean, obviously Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, those are things we're very familiar with. But if we scroll down, some of these things I've never heard of, and I know they have a diverse audience. But certainly, if you did have one of these, you could explore it. You do also have the ability to add a custom RTMP here, and but I do believe you do need a specific account for that. So, sorry, Sam, I feel like you were dying to say something, so let me just bring it back up.
No, so yeah, for custom RTMP, you do need like a pro account or whatever, and then a lot of those sort of below the fold platforms are Asian countries, so generally not English speaking as the primary. So unless you're showing footage that is global, if you have to be translated on the fly, that's probably not something of your interest. There's a site called Vaughn Live that is a very small vlogger community, and Steam, which is the gaming platform. So if you're doing games, you might want to check that out.
Absolutely. And I guess if we go back to here, like all you really need to do is once you've selected one of these, just follow through the options. And again, Facebook is a great call out actually because we've got profile, we've got group, and we've got page. But you will notice that because the demo version I'm using today is the free version, you will actually need to upgrade those to use those options. But they can they are possible. But essentially, we can come through, we can follow those up. Sometimes these things will need API connections. Sometimes you will actually have to sign in and give permission. The one thing I will say is Instagram, and we've spoken about this in the past, but Instagram is kind of its own little beast. And their live producer, it's still very hacky and basic, and I don't bother with it, to be honest. But I just want to say, if you are interested in doing Instagram, it's very important that you spend some time sort of familiarizing yourself with these instructions, because you do need to grab the stream key each time. You do need to go live via Restream and then go back to Instagram and then go live there. And there will be considerable delay. So just keep that in mind if that is something you're interested in exploring. Yes. I'm probably not going to go through the steps of actually adding something here today because, like I said, this is just a demonstration account. And really what I want to focus on here is what we can actually do with StreamYard Studio in particular. But let's just check in with the chat. Insomnia Doodles is homesick, unfortunately. Yay. So, I mean, on the one hand, we appreciate your company, but we hope you're feeling better. Sam's a little bit croaky himself this week.
Yeah.
And she writes, hope you guys are doing well. It's good to see you both. It's great to have your company as well.
You too.
Saeed, so Saeed writes, the lack of a virtual camera makes these tools not very interesting for my own use cases, which is fair enough. Although, inevitably, if I were to use one of these, I would be using the OBS virtual camera inside of it. In fact, I'll show you that in just a second. So we're going to be having a look at that. So I guess, and I wasn't going to do this, Sam, but I think we've got a little bit extra time. So I'm gonna put it to you because I saw some of your social posts earlier today about multicasting to the whole world and all the different places. I just wonder if we can touch on briefly if that is actually a good idea or if that is potentially a distraction. I'm curious how you feel about this because we go back and forth about this constantly.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I personally go back and forth on this constantly. I think it depends on where you're at with your channel or channels and your sort of personal brand or brand, whatever you're working with. You know, the go-to is if you don't have a community anywhere, try it. Throw the net out as wide as you can and see what sticks. Like when Cute Avalanche was kind of first starting to do its stream, we lucked out by, you know, getting a partnership with Mob Crush, and we're able to do a similar kind of multi-casting or multi-streaming thing. You know, we're pretty confident that we were going to be just like a YouTube channel or whatever. And almost immediately we found that our base was picking up on Mixer really, really fast. And I hadn't even heard of Mixer, but because it was a platform that was on Mob Crush, I did it. I set up an account and we ended up, you know, growing really fast on there. Unfortunately, Mixer went away. And then we were like, well, great. Now what do we do? At the time, we had doubled down and we were like, Mixer is the thing we're going to pay attention to. And that's where, you know, we put all eggs in that basket. We did still stream to other platforms, but we didn't really pay much attention to it. And then Mixer went away and we were like, oh, now what's going to happen? And immediately we thought it was going to be one platform. And then it ended up being Twitch, and at the time, Twitch did not let you be an affiliate and continue to multicast. So we, you know, talked to the community and made the choice to end it at that point and just focused on Twitch. So there's a lot of things to consider in that realm. Twitch has opened up the doors at this point. There's no platform, to my knowledge, that has that exclusivity clause anymore, unless you are like a partnered account that has a specific contract to you. But in general, you can do it. So it's almost like if you can do it and do it okay, then why not? If you do it and do it badly, then maybe not.
It is interesting, and I think on some level, you kind of want to hedge your bets a little bit in terms of social platforms because they come and go all the time. And the other thing is,
Yes.
people just have different preferences about where they would like to consume content. So there is that. I mean, during the week, in full transparency, I was getting ready to just be like, no, I'm not streaming anywhere except YouTube from now on. And then I kind of looked at the LinkedIn
Sure.
stats, and they were actually a little bit better than I thought they were. So I don't think I'll pull the plug on that just yet, but it is something I think about a lot. And I think even if you do go out live to all the various places, it is still sort of a good idea to have an idea of where you'd like to push people. And again, for me, that is YouTube, but that could be somewhere else
Yeah.
for you. And I think it's just worthwhile thinking about your goals and what you'd like to achieve. All right, we're going to come back and we're going to look at the Restream Studio experience in just a moment. But thank you so much for being here.
We are constantly training our cats every interaction that we have with them.
Mhm.
So when Johan would get on my counter before, this is 10 years ago, before I was the cat expert that I am now, Johan would jump on the counter. What was the first thing I did? I'd say his name, Johan. He loves that. That's a reward for him. He said, you just said my name. I would go over to him and I talk to him and be like, you can't be on the counter. Johan loves when I talk to him. Ding, that's another reward for Johan. I'd pick him up and put him on the ground, but I didn't want him to think I was mad at him. So when I'd pick him up very nicely and kiss him on the head and say, I love you, but you can't be here. I put him on the ground. I had just done 3 things that rewarded him for being on the counter. So I was encouraging him to continue doing that.
And that's a promo for Sam's podcast, Just Kidding Around, which you can learn more about over at cuteavalanche.com. This is the video and live streaming show. Today on the show, we're looking at Restream as an option for live streaming, multicasting, and I guess generally just creating and repurposing video content. So let's jump into the Restream Studio experience, and I'm just going to share my screen here. So, in the way that we could actually go to new stream, what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to go down to this record audio and video without going live options. So this will hopefully bring us into Restream Studio. And I realize, Sam, while you're not actually on the screen, feel free to jump in at any time. But you will be prompted with some sort of option here saying ready to join. So we can actually mute our audio. We can disable our camera. We can also go to the settings. And again, this is the point at which, you would select your camera. I would invariably go for the OBS virtual camera because I'm doing a whole bunch of different things. And there might be a little bit of inception here. I'm not really sure. We do have the ability to potentially change the video resolution, and some of these options will depend on the plan you've got. And again, for today's purposes, what I'm showing you here is literally the free options, so you may or may not be able to do a lot here. If we go to the audio, there's a really good chance it's going to default to your standard audio interface, and for me personally, this is great. We do have echo cancellation and noise suppression options. I personally don't love either of these. And I think the idea with the echo cancellation is that maybe there are some people that aren't interested in wearing headphones. And while I'm sympathetic to that, I just think it's a little bit problematic. So if you can, for the duration of the call or the stream, just turn that one off. Noise suppression might be good. I don't know. It kind of depends on your environment and how much is actually going on. The other one that I personally, and again, you got to try this out for yourself and see if it works for you. This auto gain control makes me nervous because we have certainly had one show in the last couple of years where a Windows actually arbitrarily increased my volume to the point where everything I said was completely distorted. So it's kind of up to you. And again, depending on what your audio interface is or your USB mic or whatever, you may or may not need to play with those. We do also have a virtual background option. I'm not going to play with this today because I'm coming in via the OBS virtual camera. And we do have a bunch of shortcuts here. And you can actually come in and change these. So if you decide that, maybe control full stop is not great for the sidebar, you can come in and actually sort of adjust that as well. But we'll just leave that for the moment and we'll get out of the settings. We can put our name here and we can go enter studio. we'll give it a moment. In fact, I might just pop back to Sam for a second. And again, there will be an element of inception here today.
Inception.
But
Yep.
Sam, I guess, like, have you actually, outside of our show, have you used Restream Studio very much?
It's been a while since I've used it like that. Like we use it primarily for just the multi-streaming on Qt Avalanche, but like the actual behind the scenes of it, like I haven't really set up a new stream, or it's just always kind of running through the same one, and it's running out of OBS, so I almost never go into the website itself anymore. But there was a time where I was doing quite a few in there because I was using like virtual cams to go into it or things like that, or just to pop the chat out and things of that nature. So yeah, it's been a while since I've really fully explored the back end of it.
Okay, cool. All right. And because I'm not particularly good at faking these things, I will just level with you and say that I was buying some time while I did something in the back end of OBS. But let's get out of studio mode there now. So if I go back to my screen share, I'll make that full screen. And I actually just created a new scene that didn't include the screen share that I'm sharing here, so you won't have that inception anymore. But essentially, what we can do here is we can come up and we can actually we can invite other people to join this Restream Studio. So if you've got guests, if you've got co-hosts, you can just copy a link, you can send it off to them, they'll pop up here, you can give them access, and then you can bring them into the scene. We do have our assets and our brand options. So if I were to go, I don't know, video and live streaming show, we could actually have a little folder in here to collect all of our assets that relate to the show. And when I do that, you'll see that a whole bunch of extra options will pop up here. And we have a number of different themes, which sort of will adjust how things look. We have a primary color. So again, if you wanted to actually choose a brand color here, that might be really cool. Generally, I kind of just go with black and white because that's just how I roll. We can change the font, and this is actually a relatively new feature, but I can sort of come in here from the list and pick something else and give it a moment to catch up. Personal gripe about this is just be a little bit careful that you don't get too carried away with these fancy fonts, because some of them are really hard to read, and they're sort of best enjoyed in moderation. But I mean, you certainly have those options now as well. And I guess I'll show you the captions in a second. So we've got the logo, and here, because I'm using the free version to demonstrate, the Restream logo will be part of this. So if you are trying it out for free, just be aware that that's there. You will have to pay to make that go away. But if you did have a paid account, you can actually come in here and upload your own logo that'll be in the top right-hand corner. And they recommend sort of an image of 512 by 512, so a nice square. We've got options for overlay. So again, if I click on these, you can see the ones that they've included here with Restream by default. You can, of course, upload your own as well. So the great thing about the overlays is that if you create an image that includes some transparency as a GIF or a PNG, that transparency will be sort of preserved here. Again, they've got a whole bunch of different backgrounds. Some of these are animated, which is kind of interesting. And in some ways, I would almost say, hey, these might be a little bit too distracting. There's a little bit too much going on in some of these, but again, you can upload your own as well. So that can be really, really cool. You'll see this default graphics option. I say that you can't actually, I'm obscuring the view of that, but there is a default graphics toggle. And if I turn that off or on, you'll see that the options we have for overlays and backgrounds sort of change quite dramatically. And we can do that as well. This is actually a really interesting feature because this is very new as well. So it says align left, align right. So if I go align left, that's for the logo specifically. So you can move that. And that's something that actually wasn't really here the last time I played with this software. So those are the design options. We do also have the captions. So we've got things with lower thirds, and we've got tickers as well. So if I have a lower third that's like subscribe to Saeed Saduk, at the facilitator, and I can go add. You'll see that we've got that there. All I need to do is click show, and that will appear on the screen. And you'll see that the name badge that was on my camera here is toggled away while this happens. So those two things aren't competing. Again, as I look at that, I think I'm not loving that font, so maybe I would go back to the default. In fact, I do like the default here. I don't know what that font is exactly, but I think it's pretty cool, so I'll probably stick with that one for the moment. We do also have tickers, so you can write whatever you like here. It looks like you get 1,000 characters to like and subscribe. And I can go ads. And now if I click on this one, you'll see that it scrolls at the bottom of the screen. You may have noticed it actually pops that text up a little bit just to make room for that. And in some ways, if you're not a technical person, if you're not a design person, that can be really cool because you don't really need to consider those animations. They're built into a platform like this. And I feel like the place that Restream really comes into its own is just the ability to make this really simple, to just have a conversation with a few people and do that live or recorded. I will go into my settings actually, because I think I am going to turn off that mirror on my camera because that's clearly wrong here and it's distracting me because, you know, something about seeing yourself twice in the same screen is a little bit annoying. But those are the options, and we can make as many of these as we need to. You can sort of, I think too, if we go, you know, soundproof.tv, and go ads, I think we can sort of rearrange those. Yes, so we can click and drag those. So if you have a particular order in which you'd like to use those, you can definitely do that as well. Sam, I'm just gonna pop back and check in with you because I just worry that you're being a little neglected as I screen share this.
But
what do you think of those features for a beginner in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, while they add like an awesome ease of use for a lot of those features, like you don't have to build them out quite like you would with OBS, where you're like, you have just way too many choices in doing stuff. I think it, like, don't get lost on it. Like, know what your show should look like to you before you go into it and be like, okay, I can use these things to kind of replicate that concept. But like, yeah, I would avoid some of those very fancy backgrounds, if you will, and all of the brand choices. Simple is better. I know that Restream recently put out an email that said that they were going to put camera shapes out, so masks around your camera, and I'm not sure if that's available yet or if it's available only to pro users. But yeah, as opposed to just the sort of big rectangles, you can also do like a circle in the near future and some other stuff, and they'll be linked to those brand defaults as well. So it'll be like one specific shape and color and font, and you know, you'll have more of those choices to just kind of be like, close enough to what I want. And there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be really interesting. And I'm not actually aware of, like, I must admit I haven't seen that particular email, but that is a feature everyone's always looking for. And again, it's not a particularly difficult thing to do in like OBS, but like a lot of this software just doesn't cater for it right now. Insomnia Doodles writes, ooh, the camera masks will be nice. They definitely will be. A lot of fun there to be had as well. Yeah. We're going to go to a break and we'll come back and I'll continue showing you through Restream Studio because there's actually a lot still to unpack. So this is the video and live streaming show. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm John Lacey, and in Build a Presentation Muscle, I want to talk about finding your voice, refining and sharing your message, using tools and technology to share that message, and looking after yourself as a creator.
And that's a promo for my podcast, Build a Presentation Muscle, which you can learn more about over at johnlacey.com. This is the video and live streaming show. Today we're talking about Restream and Restream Studio. And it's funny, sometimes when I'm planning these shows, I have a really good sense of how long things will take. And this week doesn't seem to be a great example of that. But I do want to keep going with some of these features in Restream because I actually haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. So just going to jump back to our Restream view here. we actually have a tab for QR codes, which again is something you can build QR codes in just about anything these days. They're basically just images, so you can bring them into anything you like. But the great thing about this is that we do have the ability to make this really simple. So if I wanted to actually say, hey, head over to, I don't know, johnlacey.com is probably not a great example, but just for argument's sake, you know, we can do this, and I can go add, and we do have the option to show.
I mean, I think the implication for the QR codes is to be used with like sales and products and stuff like that.
Yes,
just to make it like, hey, I'm wearing this cool hat. Here's where you get it.
Absolutely. And, you know, they have a whole thing about that. We'll get there in a second. But essentially, like, if you just wanted a standard QR code, we can come in and add that one there. And now I can just hit a button and it'll pop up in the top left-hand side of the screen. We've got a QR code and an image. Again, same sort of thing, except that you also upload an image and it'll come up as this little sort of button type thing. So, you know, you have those options as well. Live sales is really interesting because you can literally connect to a Shopify account or an Amazon or others with affiliate links. So if you're associated with those things, and I think Tanya Smith, Stream Like a Boss, did a really great version of this at one point where she did a studio tour and every piece of equipment had its QR code ready to go. So that in itself might be really, really interesting. And I'm not sure I'm surprised that this actually isn't sort of prompting me to upgrade my account. I'd be really curious to see how far I could get with that in the free version, but that is certainly a thing. And there's also the classic and compact versions of these as well. So if I show you this one, that's the classic, which is quite prominent on the screen, but we do also have a compact version, which is at the bottom. So you do have a few different options there. And again, if you're just, you know, if you're not the technical producer of a live stream, if you're just somebody sharing links to things, this can be a really amazing way of getting started. We do have a music tab here. For the life of me, I mean, there's a lot of AI generated music here, which, you know, I don't personally have any great interest in exploring, but it is there if you're curious. You can upload your own music to play there in the background now as well, so that could be a useful thing. But I guess, and I'm gonna go and let's turn off that background because it's just annoying me. Let's be real. All right. So what I kind of want to show you though, and this is relatively new. So what actually happened in the earlier version of Restream Studio was you didn't have scenes, you only had layouts, and you could sort of switch between these. And again, these would make more sense if I had a guest on screen, but I can't really do that right now. But now we have the ability to add scenes. So if I click on add scenes, we've got the ability to work with cameras, with media, and with countdowns. So let's have a look at the countdown first, because that's one of their newest options. So we can say how long we want the counter to go for, anywhere from 10 seconds to 30 minutes, though I beg you, don't subject anyone to a 30-minute countdown. That's excruciating. There's an option to switch scene after the countdown, which is really interesting. It doesn't seem to specify which one, so I'm hoping it just goes to the next one in this list. In fact, let's try it. Let's do this for 10 seconds. I'll drag down the welcome screen. There's an option to include music as well. You can change the font, you can change the color. Okay, there we go. So it literally went from the countdown to the next scene, which is actually probably a really good way of working if you wanted to do that. So you've got those options. We can change those. Again, whether that's the most exciting thing in the world or not, you can do that as well. But we can sort of go in, we can add media. So if you've got a video that you'd like to play, you can sort of bring that in there. So we can add slides, we can add video, we can add a screen. So if you want to do screen sharing in here as well. I'm curious as to what the other options are. So video, presentation, screen share, image, extra camera, RTMP source. So if you've got something coming out of Zoom or OBS or whatever, or a local video. Sam, I'm going to jump back to you for a second.
Yeah.
Because I want to get your thoughts on this. If you were to have a video you want to include it in your stream, would you be inclined to upload it to Restream and let them play it, or would you prefer to do it from your own personal computer?
Ooh. God, I mean, I think it depends on the context of the show that I'm doing. I feel like it probably plays better out of Restream is my guess. Like you're dealing with one server as opposed to, you know, the two that it would be me to them to, you know, to wherever. So my guess is it's probably better resolution, but in general, for the most part, I don't think I would have the foresight to be like, oh, right, I should upload these videos. And it would be something random that I'd be like, hey, wait, I have this video, let's get it. Or like, you know, I did it last minute. Because, you know, obviously you have to deal with upload times and whatever, depending on how big it is. Plus, if you have something that's super big, then you can't even do it. A lot of the stuff that when I was doing for Mob Crush, we did like you know, trailer reviews and whatever, and I would go in and like scrub back and forth. So you can't even do that on Restream. So in that kind of situation, I'd want to do that through OBS and the VLC player. So yeah, I guess in general, I do it locally.
Okay, that's really interesting because I think 9 times out of 10, I would prefer to upload it just because I'm worried about the latency issues there. But I mean, that's obviously a preference. But let's just jump back into this. Press another button. Okay, so we've got those options. So again, like I can grab a video and we might have one in the video storage. In this case, because this is a brand new account, I don't. I could come in and grab a video. In fact, why don't let me just see if I can find a video really quickly. Again, this is kind of what Sam was alluding to a little bit in terms of you know, actually having the foresight to have these things ready to go. But I've got a very short video, and I'm just going to see how long it takes to upload. So this is a video. It's less than a minute. I don't remember exactly how long it is, but essentially we can bring this up here. It's worth noting too, on the free plan, I've got the ability to only upload 3 videos. So again, if I had more than that, I probably would have to either remove them and add new ones, or I might have to use that local video option as well. So essentially this is going to do its thing and eventually upload. And the great thing about this is because the newer version of Restream Studio lets you build out these scenes, it gives you the ability to have a very specific run order, which I really appreciate because I'm a very structured person. And again, this is the difference between Sam and I might just jump back to Sam to get his facial reaction at that one, whether he's paying attention or not. But wow. So, you know, if you do like a bit of structure, I think this is a great way of working in terms of actually having all the scenes. Because I kind of, the way I'm doing this at the moment is with OBS, and my scene order doesn't really mean much in OBS, but I have the Stream Deck buttons in a very particular order. And okay, so it looks like my video is almost processed. So there we go. So it uploaded, it processed, there we go. There's Sam and I talking about DaVinci from a previous show. So I can add that here. And again, I'm conscious of the fact you guys won't be able to hear this because of the way I've set this up, but essentially we've got our countdown, we've got our welcome scene. The other tab over here that I didn't show, and it's slightly behind my head, but there's a notes option here. And the great thing about this notes option, and it is relatively new, is that you can sort of add notes to each of these scenes. So, you know, if we're on this welcome one, for example, we can say today on the show, we'll be covering X, Y, and Z, you know, whatever. You'd have real notes here, potentially, and you could have different notes on these. So, you know, if we were going to come to a demo or the video, I probably don't need to include notes for a video. It's just going to play and do its thing, but you do have those options there, which is potentially quite useful. So we got the camera, we got the media, and again, the camera is sort of interesting too, because it'll depend on how many people are actually inside of Restream. So these layouts, you know, if I had Sam in Restream as well, which would be a little bit too difficult to do on this week's show, but, you know, we could have these different layouts for these cameras. And I guess this is something that these layouts are very much original Restream Studio. These scenes are new. I'm not really sure if they've thought through how these things interact with each other, because I guess the other stumbling block I've had sometimes is that I will have a very specific layout and different cameras will just default to different parts of it, which as a control freak, can be very annoying. And down the bottom, we do have a private chat. So if I had other people in here and wanted to compare notes, we can do that as well. I can disable the camera. I can screen share. I can invite guests. I think that, okay, so that's for the presentations and the extra camera. And again, I don't think it'll let me use the extra camera. Actually, it looks like it will, even on the free version. So that potentially is quite useful. I don't actually have a second camera to work with, so I can't really show you that, but that is there to go. The other thing that's worth pointing out is we have these buttons over here, landscape orientation and portrait orientation. And if I go portrait, it's going to resize things for me and give me sort of more of a YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels or TikTok type of view. We do have the ability to maximize this. So this is where it gets sort of interesting. We can kind of fill this frame a little bit, but I don't know that it's particularly optimized for this just yet. And I got to go back to Sam, because I think the one glaring omission, and I actually have fed this back to Restream, is that there's not a particularly good way of going live vertically and horizontally at the same time. And what you can do you can sort of, I mean, you can just have the horizontal and it'll just squish it into space, but there's no real option for that.
Yeah, and I don't think StreamYard had a good solution for that either. There is a different company that maybe we'll talk about in the future that released exactly that, but the way they accomplish it is that you get a second stream key for your vertical video feed. So through OBS you would stream twice, which is better than streaming 12 times, but it's still an extra load on your PC. So if your computer can handle it, then you can do it and then go from there.
And I think you do need like almost a business plan in Restream if you want to have two streams running at once. So that was another thing that I kind of fed back to some people at Restream. So again, these are much more advanced features. They may not apply to many of the people that would be looking to Restream as a solution, but I just wanted to call that out. So
yeah, I would say that for the most part, vertical streaming just isn't really in a place where it's that interesting. I don't think any of those platforms have really made it easy enough. Like Instagram and TikTok, it's virtually impossible. Not impossible, but it's a pain in the butt to stream to those in addition to anything else. So you might as well just be doing it on your phone at that point.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing, like TikTok, you need to have a certain number of subscribers to even have access to that.
Yeah.
They've got their own software that they kind of want you to use anyway. Yeah, so I don't know. It's a very valid point that you make about that. And I think we are interested in it because we're nerdy and we can sort of see the possibilities. And again, I feel like we've covered the Atom vertical plugin for OBS Studio in the past, and I can't overstate how much I love that. And I don't actually stream vertically anywhere, but I just always have that as a recording. So when I want to make a short clip, I can sort of just grab that video and be good to go. All right, so what we're going to do now, let's head back to Restream, and I kind of want to talk to you about some of the other features and the other capabilities of this a little bit. So let me just do that. And again, let's just leave. Assuming nobody has any further questions about this, I think we've covered the bulk of the studio experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. Obviously there's a big button at the top which basically says start recording, and if you were scheduled to go live, there'd be a go live button there as well. But essentially what we can do back here is we've also got those abilities to connect to OBS or other streaming software. We can upload a video and schedule that. In fact, if I do that now, because I've got this one video here, I can sort of go next. And in this case, I actually don't have any destinations set up to this, but in theory, you would add the title, you'd add the description, you'd explain when you wanted it to go live. There is an option to loop the video 10 times. I don't know if that would be a particularly useful thing. And again, let's just jump back to Sam because I'm really curious how he feels about that. I and of course he's coughing his lungs out. Sorry, Sam.
Nope. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I don't know what instance you would be in where you're going to want to loop that video, especially because there's such short videos. It's not like it's a 10-hour video and then you're like, I'm just going to loop that. That's fine. At that point, yes. Like, but even at like, 1 or 2 hours, I wouldn't want to loop that.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you do need you wouldn't be able to do this with the free plan, but if you did have one of the larger plans, and I've actually paid for this on our normal accounts, is that I can upload hour-long videos and have them pushed out again, and I can also make playlists in that same way. So, I don't know, if I had 20 odd shows, just put them together as a list, and then loop them 10 times. I don't think that would work because I think that'll just be too many hours, and I think most of the destinations would just stop the stream at some point. But in theory, it might be an opportunity to perhaps do something with just to me. I guess I'm thinking about this in terms of watch time on YouTube specifically. Like I think there might be use case. I'm not really sure what it would be in this exact moment in time.
Yeah, if you can do like a whole bunch of long videos and loop the entire playlist, it would be awesome if it would shuffle them as well. But yeah, at that point, then that would be worth it because of the watch time specifically to YouTube. And I'm sure some other platforms, algorithmically pay attention to watch time as well. I know Twitch does to some extent, but YouTube's really where you're going to see that play out the most. And I can, tell you that by running a 24/7 kitten cam, that is exactly what that will do. So in that situation, the loop function would make sense. I also think, is 10 the maximum loops that it has?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was going to say something else. I was like, there might be an interesting cheat to use on, like, if you ever see any of those sort of cozy stream things where it's basically a looped GIF within itself. Like if you just did that and then, ran it as long as possible and then looped all of that, then you could, do something with that as well. Cause it's not really something you're even going to notice at that point. But there are specific services that just do those kind of streams for you.
And I must admit, I've only used the playlist feature once, and it was just when they brought it out. And at that point, I think it was available to just about anybody to try out. And I combined a bunch of my Learn OBS Studio videos together. And I had a very generic title, nothing exciting in the description, and yet there was clearly appetite for much longer videos than I'd been creating. And just sort of combining these as a compilation, it's kind of this untapped power that I think I really need to go back and revisit at some point, because I think there are people, especially who watch YouTube, that just need something playing in the background, and if it goes for 8 hours, they're actually really down for that. And again, I realize I don't need to convince Sam of that as someone who who did the 24-hour cat cam, but I think that's really interesting. And then there's a part of me that's always sort of worried about wasting people's time, and I'm like, it's got to be 30 seconds and done and tell you everything you've ever needed to know. But clearly I think different people want different things.
At that point you're making different content for different people. Yeah, you just said the same thing. I was talking with the delay, we talked over each other perfectly.
Awesome. Okay, so I just jump back in here. There was a bit of a tangent, but I'm just curious about Sam's perspective on those things. So once you've gone live or recorded videos, they will actually end up in this video storage area. Again, depending on your plan, these things will last there for a certain period of time before they're automatically deleted. You will get a notification email that one of your recordings is going to be deleted soon, so you can check that out. There are analytics. Again, I've got nothing connected to this account, so there's nothing particularly exciting to show you here. But essentially, once you have a past stream, you can actually go in and just reschedule it. So you can just say, here is the stream we did. I want this to go somewhere else. And especially, like, we didn't really talk about the destinations too much, the channels. You can only kind of go live to one LinkedIn property at a time. And I didn't know this when I was trying to get a following for my johnlacey.com LinkedIn page. And the thing I was imagining is that I would have it on my personal profile and my company page at the same time, but I can't really do that. So now sometimes what I do is I'll just take the recording and I'll reschedule that and just make sure people are aware that it is a replay, and I may not be monitoring the chat, but that is an option that you have there as well. If we go into the settings, there are a whole bunch of different options in here in terms of social alerts and branding, although I think Twitter was the big one that people probably wanted to use, and we can't use that anymore, so that's no longer a thing. But we do have some branding options in here. There is a ability to sort of use their affiliate program in there as well. But I guess the other thing I do want to call out is the Restream chat. So chat.restream.io actually brings up this chat, and if you're going out to multiple destinations, this will actually it'll combine all the ones that it can have access to. And again, that's really the ones that they have listed out. Sometimes if you're going to an obscure place that doesn't have that, you'll need to monitor that chat separately. But essentially here you'll see the chats. You can use this in conjunction with Social Stream Ninja if you want to. If you're just going live without scheduling, you can actually log into OBS with your Restream account and it'll pop up a few extra dialog boxes. The thing that I want to show you, and it's literally behind my face because of course it is, but you'll have to take my word for this, but in the bottom right hand corner there's a button called settings, and if I click on that, there's, you can see some of it. There's a whole bunch of different options about embedding in stream and replying to comments and analytics and things. But I want to talk about this chat bot because this is really cool, and I don't know if anyone's actually watching on a platform that isn't YouTube right now. But the thing that you may have seen on this show in the past is if somebody on LinkedIn comments, you'll often, and you're watching on YouTube, you'll actually see something that'll say LinkedIn user XYZ said this, and that'll bring the comments between different destinations. So if you are actually using that, that can be really cool. And it's very easy to turn on. You literally just go to the settings, hit the replay mode on, and that will appear. It is worth keeping in mind, though, that this only works for destinations that accept chat input, and LinkedIn especially does not do that. So it won't work everywhere, but I think it's good because if you do have your viewers sort of spread across a whole bunch of different places, this can bring them together a little bit as well, which I think is really cool. I guess the other thing too...
this is kind of why at the beginning of the show I said that it was the best multi-streaming or multicasting platform, because it has the most API connections. It will do this sort of chat relay to, I don't think anyone else is parroting that feature at this time. So it does that in addition to a few other things, like it pulls the analytics for a bunch of those platforms as well. So you can kind of compare things in one place without having to jump over to Twitch and jump over to Facebook and jump over to YouTube and bring up all the insights and analytics and be like this one and that one. And you can actually just compare them right there. But I think the sort of the chat bot and chat relay is just like one of the coolest things that any of these services has going for them.
Okay, awesome. And I'm just in the background, I'm kind of opening, and hello to Lynn Williams, who's watching on LinkedIn. Lynn, if you write me another comment on LinkedIn, I'm just going to see if I can demonstrate the Restream bot functionality here. I don't know if I will be able to. I think I might have left that a little bit late, but essentially what actually happens, in fact, if I bring this over here, and I'll just switch back to my screen share for a second. And I realize this text is tiny, so let's increase it. But essentially, this is the Restream bot, and it's saying LinkedIn, this is the user, and this is what they said. So that sort of brings the conversation together a little bit more, which I think is honestly really, really cool. And I think if you are going to a lot of different destinations, you do need to think strategically about how you're actually bringing that audience together as a whole. So I think I'll close that window though, because there's a risk that I'll have double chat everywhere if I leave that open. The one thing I did want to talk about a little bit, and I'm just trying to remember where it is. I think it's over here. So, screen share again, full screen. So this is in the settings, and this is under stream setup. So, by default, they actually have what they call the auto detect. This will give you what they feel is the most appropriate server, but they do have servers all around the world. And I kind of learned this quite accidentally. I was actually having some issues with this, and I reached out to the support, and they actually got me to do this speed test here. And I think I've got this open in another window. So essentially you can run a speed test and you'll see how far away and what your speed is in relation to these different servers. And because there is literally a Sydney, Australia one, and I'm in New South Wales in Australia, this is actually the one I use now. I don't even use the auto anymore. I just found that this really helped ensure that I had a good connection. The other thing too, I do want to call out. So if you, and again, if you do find you want to use a specific server, you can literally just come in and copy that and put it into your software of choice. And this is again for those people that are using OBS Studio or Ecamm Live or vMix or that kind of thing. The other thing that I think is really worth calling out is this status.restream.io, which is essentially their status. You know, if there are any problems, if there are any errors, this is where you want to go to make sure if it's you or if it's the system at large. And because I had a few issues lately, I've been very aware of this. And the thing that I've done is if you click on this, go up to this get updates, go to email, put in your email address, you'll actually get emails that will notify you of different things. And I think if you're using this on an ongoing basis, this is a really good opportunity to make sure you're up to date. So if there is a problem with, I don't know, investigating issue with impossible to upload video clips and video backgrounds in Studio, we can see that this is apparently resolved now. But you know, if there was something you wanted to use in your show and you know there's a problem with it, then maybe you need to have a look at this before you go live and just keep that in mind.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So there are a few different features in there, and again, depending on who you are and what your goals are, you might like to hang out in the studio. You might like to just use this for the multicasting and the chat options as well. But I think it's worth exploring, and they literally have a free option. So there's nothing to be lost by just signing up for that and going from there. Again, we're not here to promote this service, but Black Friday is apparently almost upon us, and I believe they're offering 50% off. So if you do try out the free version, decide it might be good for you, it's probably a good time to actually purchase. But again, no pressure, and we're not getting any kickbacks from saying any of the things that we've said today. So any final thoughts, Sam, as we begin to wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, the mere fact that it has both the sort of browser-based studio version or the OBS connection is really awesome, and you know, gives you sort of that ability to grow as a streamer. So if you just want to start with Studio just to begin streaming as easily as possible, you can, and then take your time learning OBS through us, because we'll be teaching you all about that. You can make that switch pretty seamlessly and continue to go out to all of your platforms. And again, you know, I would use the platforms sparingly. They do give you way too many for any normal person to use, unless you are doing a completely soundless or, like, you know, voiceless stream. Then maybe you maximize all of the possible connections.
All right, cool. So Sam, where can people find out more about you, what's your content, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, you can find me at samproof.tv. All of my social links are at the top left there. I might need to add a few alternative text-only platforms due to recent trends. Yeah, if you didn't get enough cats this week, head over to cuteavalanche.com for our 24/7 live stream and enjoy some cuteness.
Cool. And if you want to catch up with me, you can head over to johnlacey.com. I got the podcast, a whole bunch of articles, and there are social links at the bottom of those pages. Come find me on LinkedIn and YouTube, especially. That's where I tend to hang out. Incidentally, these overlays that we've just shown you on the screen are just images that have a bit of transparency in them. And this works in OBS, but it also works in Restream Studio as well. So that's kind of my tip, is just take a screenshot of the layout that you want to use, and then you can bring that into your graphics software and can design around it. So that's really awesome. Next week on the show, we're going to be talking all about festive holiday streaming and video creation. So I don't know that we've even got that planned yet. So tune in next week. But have a great week. Have a great weekend when you get there. Do not push all the buttons, says Saeed, and Farquad says Kitty wants to participate. Kitty always does. Yes, we love a bit of Kitty.
All true.
All right, we'll talk to you again very, very soon.